I should have known something was off the moment she laughed too hard at the wine list. My name is Gideon Hart. I'm 33, living in Monterey, California, and I've been a marine rescue diver for over a decade. Layla and I had been together 5 years, engaged for one. That night at the conservation gala, I thought we were celebrating both. She looked stunning, always did. Her dress was that ocean gray color she loved, with her hair swept up like she just didn't have time to try too hard. She knew exactly how to look effortless. We took photos with donors and shook hands with people I barely remembered from previous rescues. My boss gave a speech about team valor. Layla beamed the whole time, her arm wrapped around mine like she belonged there. Like we belonged. Then I handed her the box. It wasn't big, just a tiny velvet case I'd been carrying in my jacket pocket for 2 weeks. She opened it slowly, that familiar smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth, and pulled out the antique compass pendant. 19th century, silver, a little tarnished. I had it restored and added a new chain. She loved symbolism. So you'll always know where home is, I said quietly, leaning toward her ear. She kissed my cheek. It's beautiful. We clinked champagne glasses. Dessert arrived, some passion fruit thing neither of us could pronounce. And then, like she was ordering a refill, she said it. I've been thinking. I want to take an emotional sabbatical. I blinked. Eh, what? You know, just a little space to explore. She kept her voice soft, friendly, smiling, like we were on a talk show and I was her amused co-host. Explore what exactly? I asked, putting my fork down. She took a sip of wine. Emotional connections. Dating. But just for a while. I'm not saying we break up. You want a date? I said flat. While we're still engaged. Just temporarily. I need clarity. Don't you want me to grow? I looked around. People were mid-conversation, sipping espresso, passing petit fours. None of them had any idea my entire world had just shifted sideways. You chose this place to tell me that. I asked, barely above a whisper. Her eyes darted down, to the compass still sitting in her palm. I didn't want to cause a scene. No, she didn't want me to cause one. I stood up slowly. My chair made a quiet scrape that still felt deafening. I watched her fingers curl around the pendant. Then I reached across the table, picked it up gently, and laid it down next to her wine glass. Keep it, I said. You'll need it more than I will. I walked out before she could answer. The night air hit me like a wave, sharp, bitter, too clean. I didn't look back. I don't even remember getting in the truck. 1 minute I was storming out of the gala with my tie half undone, and the next I was behind the wheel, driving with no plan and nowhere to be. I just kept the coastline on my left and let the highway pull me south. No music, no calls, just the sound of tires on asphalt and the occasional sting of her voice replaying in my head. Emotional sabbatical. She said it like it was some wellness retreat, like she'd discovered a cute new word for betrayal. A couple hours later, I ended up pulling off near Big Sur, this quiet little cove where we used to camp before she got too old for tents. I killed the engine and just sat there, listening to the ocean. Somewhere out in the dark, I could hear the waves knocking against the rocks. The wind smelled like salt and eucalyptus. I climbed into the back seat, used a hoodie as a pillow, and stared up through the foggy window. Sleep didn't come easy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her at that table again. So calm, so sure. Like this was just the next chapter in her curated self-development story. She used to say I grounded her. That being with me felt like home. But I guess people get bored of home when they're chasing adventure, even if it's the kind that burns everything down behind them. I must have dozed off sometime before sunrise. When I woke up, my neck was stiff and my mouth tasted like old coffee. Seagulls were screaming overhead, and the beach was damp with mist. I sat up, wiped my face, and told myself not to check my phone. I checked anyway. 7 missed calls. For texts. Layla, can we talk? Layla, I didn't mean to hurt you. Layla, please don't shut me out. This isn't the end. Layla, I need space, but I still want us. I locked the screen without answering. The fact that she thought we were still in us made something twist in my stomach. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the arrogance. I drove up the road to a beat-up coffee shack that overlooked the cliffs. The kind of place that used to only take cash and still might. The woman behind the counter gave me a sympathetic smile, probably assuming I was hungover. I guess in a way, I was, just not from alcohol. I sipped my coffee at a splintered picnic table and stared at the ocean. I kept thinking about the 5 years I gave her. The diving shifts I skipped to plan surprise weekends. The time I flew home early from a recovery mission in Alaska just to catch her gallery opening. And for what? I didn't have answers yet. But I knew one thing, whatever came next, I wasn't going to let her shape it. Layla was in the kitchen when I got back. Barefoot, robe on, sipping tea like nothing happened. Like she hadn't set a grenade on the middle of our relationship and calmly walked away. She looked up from her mug. You disappeared. Yeah, I said, dropping my keys on the table. Needed air. She tilted her head. I was worried. I gave a short laugh. Worried? You said you want to see other people, Layla. Worry doesn't really land right after that. She crossed her arms. It's not like I cheated. I just said I need space to grow. I turned toward her slowly. You want to grow? Fine. But you don't get to grow on my dime in my house while you explore the market like we're test driving futures. She opened her mouth, but I kept going. If you need space, then take it. But you won't be living here while you do. Her eyes narrowed. So you're kicking me out now? I'm giving you what you asked for, I said. You want a sabbatical, right? Sabbaticals have rules. Here's mine. You don't stay here, you don't use me as a placeholder, and you don't get to pretend this is still some kind of healthy engagement. She was quiet for a second too long. That silence where she was usually forming a rebuttal, trying to charm her way around the point. Then she placed her mug down too carefully and said, I thought you'd be more open-minded. Open-minded? Like this was a TED Talk. I shook my head. You don't get to flip the script and act like I'm the one being closed off because I won't agree to being your emotional safety net. Layla turned to lean against the counter, her voice softer now. This doesn't have to be hostile. It's not. Yet. But it is done being convenient for you. She looked at me like she didn't recognize who she was talking to. Maybe she didn't. Hell, maybe I didn't either. A week ago, I would have bent over backwards to keep her happy. But now? Now I saw it for what it was. Where am I supposed to go? She asked, arms still crossed. You have friends. Ivy, for one. Ivy was her flaky travel blogger friend who somehow always had a couch available and zero accountability. They were perfect for each other. Layla rolled her eyes. That's not stable. You're the one who doesn't want stable, I snapped. You want open-ended. So go live in it. She walked past me, her steps sharp. You don't get to act all high and mighty. You think you're the only one hurting? No, I said, voice steady. But I'm the only one not pretending this is normal. I pulled open the desk drawer and slid a manila envelope across the table. This is a draft of our finances. What we split, what I cover, what you'll need to handle now. I made you a copy. She looked down at it like it might bite. Start figuring it out, I said. You've got a week. And for the first time in a long time, I saw something flicker behind her eyes, something that looked a lot like fear. Layla moved out on a Thursday. She didn't cry, didn't apologize. Just packed 2 large suitcases, a garment bag, and her yoga mat into the back of Ivy's Jeep and acted like she was headed off to a long weekend in Santa Barbara. Ivy stood in the driveway wearing mirrored sunglasses and that fake bohemian confidence she always carried, like the whole world was a layover. I watched from the front porch, arms crossed. Layla walked up the steps once more, her tone way too casual. I'll keep the keys for when I come back, okay? I stared at her, trying to figure out if she was joking. She wasn't. No, I said flatly. You won't be coming back. And you won't need the keys. She paused, half turning. Gideon, come on. I told you, this isn't a breakup. Then what the hell is it? I asked. Because it sure as hell isn't a relationship. I just need time to eat. No, I cut in. Time is what you take when you're trying to work on something. This? This is you stepping out of it entirely and expecting me to keep the lights on. She didn't answer. Just stared like she couldn't believe I was actually standing my ground. You asked for space. So take it, I added. But don't insult me by pretending this is still an engagement. I held my hand out. Keys. She hesitated, then slowly fished them from her purse and dropped them into my palm. Her fingers lingered a second too long, like she was hoping for a sentimental moment. I closed my hand and stepped back. Ivy honked. Twice. Because of course she did. Layla turned without a word and walked to the car. I didn't wave. I didn't say goodbye. I watched her climb in, watched the Jeep kick up dust as it pulled away, and then I walked back inside. The silence hit hard. The kind of silence that felt like pressure in your ears. I stood there for a while, just staring at the living room. Her throw blanket was still draped across the couch. Her stupid essential oil diffuser blinked from the corner. I unplugged it, shoved it in a bag with the rest of her lingering stuff, and dropped it by the door. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Not to file anything. Not yet. Just to prepare. His name was Jensen. Clean office. No nonsense. I laid it all out. What was joint? What was mine before? And what I needed to protect. We're not married yet, I said. But we were planning a future. She's acting like we're still on that track. Jensen nodded slowly. Then you make sure the tracks are cleared before she tries to come back. Back at home, I changed the locks. Took her name off the emergency contact list at work. Went for a run that lasted longer than it should have. My legs burned, lungs screamed, but it felt good to do something I could control. That night, I opened the bedroom closet and looked at the space where her shoes used to be. It looked better empty. Weeks went by, and I didn't hear a word from Layla. Not a text. Not a call. Nothing but one formal message asking to forward her mail to Ivy's place in Carmel Valley. I didn't answer. I'd expected a fight. Some kind of backlash. But she'd gone completely quiet, like disappearing was part of the plan. It was almost impressive how fast she pivoted from life partner to spiritual wanderer. But other people filled in the silence. Mia, a mutual friend from the foundation board, sent a message one morning. I know it's not my place, but she posted a photo from some tantric retreat in Big Sur. With an intimacy coach named Zion? Thought you should know. I stared at the screen for a long time before I locked the phone and went back to cleaning the dive gear. Zion. Jesus. Over the next few days, more little breadcrumbs trickled in. Layla and Joshua Tree, wrapped in linen, barefoot with a man holding a singing bowl. Layla floating in a saltwater tank in Ojai, her caption talking about rebirth. Layla laughing on a hike with a different guy who looked barely old enough to rent a car. The worst part wasn't the photos, it was how happy she looked. Radiant. Like she'd just sloughed off 5 years of stability and found herself in a stranger's arms under the full moon. Meanwhile, I was scrubbing algae off rescue tanks and fighting to sleep more than 4 hours a night. Then, one afternoon, the phone rang. Unknown number. Gideon, a soft voice said. Speaking. It's Elena, she said. Layla's mom. I froze. Hey, I said cautiously. Everything okay? I'm not sure, she replied. That's why I'm calling. Elena had always liked me. She was a retired botanist, lived up in Arcata with her herb garden and vintage seed catalogs. Kind, quiet, smarter than she let on. She'd once told me I was the only person who ever brought calm to Layla's chaos. I haven't heard from her in weeks, she said. Not a single call. I tried Ivy. She said Layla's busy, deep in her journey. Yeah, I muttered. That checks out. She left me a voicemail last night, Elena continued. Told me not to worry. Said she's finally free and realigned, and that you'd understand. I laughed. A bitter, tired sound. Understand what? She said she's taking a necessary pause. That she knows you'll wait because your bond is cosmic. I leaned against the counter, stunned. She really thinks I'm waiting? She does, Elena said gently. And I told her she's a damn fool. Silence stretched across the line. I'm sorry, Gideon, she said finally. You deserved better than this. Yeah, I said. I did. After we hung up, I sat on the floor for a while. Just sat there, elbows on my knees, staring at the blank spot where our anniversary photo used to hang. And for the first time since she left, I didn't feel sad. I felt done. Done waiting. Done hoping. Done believing that love meant tolerating betrayal in prettier packaging. I wasn't going to chase someone who turned our life into a mood board for spiritual enlightenment. She could keep her sabbatical and her coaches and her vision quests. Me? I still had the sea. I still had work. And maybe, just maybe, I still had something better ahead. It started with a seal. I was volunteering at a local marine wildlife fundraiser on a Saturday morning, mostly just helping kids toss bean bags into fish-shaped buckets and handing out flyers about ocean plastics. The team got a call about an injured harbor seal tangled in fishing line a few miles north. I was already halfway into my wetsuit when someone jogged up behind me. Hey, you're not going without me, are you? I turned around. She was about my age, maybe a little younger. Athletic build, messy braid, sunburnt shoulders. She grinned like we were old friends. Do I know you? I asked, pulling up my hood. I'm Sierra, she said, holding out her hand. Kayak instructor. I also run the youth water safety program. You're Gideon, right? The diver who pulled the whale calf off the buoy chain last spring. I blinked. Yeah, that was me. She smiled wider. Cool. I watched that video like 100 times. Come on, let's go rescue a seal. And just like that, we were off. The rescue was quick. relatively speaking. The seal was lucky. Minor cuts, some bruising, but nothing permanent. After we helped load it into the rehab van, Sierra glanced at the sky. You eat yet? No. Good, she said. I packed sandwiches. Hope you're okay with turkey and cheddar. We drove to a cliffside turnout overlooking the bay, the kind of spot that felt too perfect to be real. She passed me a sandwich wrapped in wax paper and plopped down on a rock like she'd been doing it her whole life. We ate in silence for a few minutes, the good kind. So, she said, brushing crumbs off her shorts, what's your story? I thought about lying, or skipping the whole Layla part entirely. But I didn't. I gave her the short version. The gala. The sabbatical. The locks changed. Sierra whistled. Damn. That's rough. Yeah. Wasn't my favorite month. She nodded, thoughtful. But you didn't let it sink you. You're still showing up. Saving seals. Making sandwiches with strangers. I laughed. First time I'd really laughed in a while. Guess so. We sat there a long time after that, watching pelicans dive and boats drift. The wind whipped her hair around, and she didn't bother fixing it. I like that. She wasn't trying too hard. She wasn't trying at all. When the sun started dropping behind the hills, we packed up. She handed me her number scribbled on a dive map. Let me know next time you get a call, she said. Or if you ever want to go paddle out just for fun. I nodded, tucking it into my pocket. Yeah, I think I will. She leaned in, quick and easy, and kissed me on the cheek. Then smiled. See you around, rescue guy. I watched her jog back to her truck, hair bouncing, sandals flapping. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like a man recovering from a breakup. I just felt lighter. The manila envelope sat on my kitchen table for 3 days before I opened it. I'd hired a private investigator on a quiet Tuesday. Not because I needed revenge. Not even out of anger, really. I just needed clarity. I needed something solid, proof that what I felt in my gut wasn't just bitterness clouding my judgment. What I got was worse than I expected. Photos. Names. Hotel receipts. A printout of an Instagram story she thought was private. Her, draped over a guy in a yurt in Sedona, captioned, healing through openness. His wedding ring visible on his hand. 2 married men. At least one of them she'd met through her wellness brand gig. Multiple others. The so-called emotional sabbatical was a full-blown audition reel for her next chapter. I stared at the evidence for a long time. Then I made the call to Jensen, my lawyer. File it, I said. I want the papers served by the end of the week. And I want a restraining order blocking her from re-entering the property. He didn't ask questions. Just got to work. The morning she was served, I was out on the dock coiling line when I got the text. Layla, seriously? You had me served at Ivy's? What the hell, Gideon? I didn't reply. I didn't need to. 2 hours later, I heard the familiar screech of tires outside. She banged on the door. I didn't open it. I made her wait. When I finally swung it open, she looked wild. No makeup, hair tangled, wearing some oversized scarf that looked like it had been stolen from a meditation circle. But her eyes were scared. You can't be serious, she said. Divorce? Legal orders? Are you punishing me now? I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. No, I'm protecting myself. You forfeited your place in this life when you turned it into a sandbox for your spiritual self-exploration. She stepped closer. We can still fix this. I've had time to reflect. I've been thinking about starting a family. My jaw actually dropped. Now you want to start a family? After months of running around with intimacy shamans and married yoga instructors. Her lip curled. Those were experiences. That doesn't mean I don't love you. Layla, I said quietly, you don't get to define love anymore. Not with me. I just thought. You thought I'd wait. I cut in. You thought you could run around and realign, and I'd stay here like a backup plan. Well, I'm not. That guy's gone. Her expression shifted, panic, disbelief, maybe even grief. But none of it moved me. You'll get a fair settlement, I added. You'll be fine. She shook her head like she was trying to reboot the conversation. But we had a future. No, I said. We had a timeline. You broke it. You rewrote it without me. And I'm not here to play the supporting role in your solo journey. For the first time, she was speechless. I stepped back inside and closed the door. Not slammed, just firm. Clean. She stood out there for a minute or two, waiting for something that wasn't coming. Then I heard her heels click away. I didn't look out the window. Didn't check to see if she turned around. She wouldn't find me waiting. I sold the house that fall. Didn't make a big deal out of it. Just packed what mattered, my dive gear, some clothes, a couple photo albums that didn't feature Layla, and left the rest behind. I didn't even care about the profit. I just wanted out. What I bought instead was a small coastal cottage about 15 minutes from the dive center. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, wood stove, sand-colored paint that faded beautifully in the sun. It sat on a little bluff with a view of the water and a rickety back deck I rebuilt with my own hands. For the first time in years, I felt like I was living somewhere that actually fit me. Sierra was there the day I got the keys. She showed up with a bottle of ginger beer and a pack of screwdrivers. "I don't do housewarming gifts," she said, "but I do know how to hang shelves." She did, actually. Way better than me. We didn't define anything for a while. We just were. She came over with her surfboard in the mornings, brought over bags of produce from the Saturday market, taught me how to make chili lime popcorn without burning it. She never pushed, never asked for more than I could give. But little by little, it just happened. I caught myself smiling more, sleeping deeper, looking forward to things instead of dreading them. One night, we were sitting on the deck, wrapped in a blanket, watching the fog roll in. She leaned against my shoulder and said, "You know, I never thought I'd meet someone who didn't flinch at quiet." That stuck with me. I didn't flinch at quiet anymore. Not since Layla was gone. Speaking of Layla, she didn't go down in flames, but her world did shrink. Her online presence faded fast after rumors started spreading. Something about an STI diagnosis and 2 clients threatening to drop her from a wellness partnership. Ivy posted a photo from a silent retreat with the caption, "Some people need to be humbled." I didn't ask questions. Her mother sent a thank you note when the divorce was finalized. No return address. And me? I kept living. My work schedule picked up again. We had a major spill off the coast near Morro Bay, and I led the containment dive. I started training a new recruit named Brandon, who reminded me a little too much of myself at 25, quiet, intense, good in a storm. Sierra got certified in free diving. We spent hours underwater together, weightless and wordless, coming up only when we needed breath. And one evening, while hiking up to the same cliffs where we'd shared that first sandwich and seal rescue, I stopped halfway, took her hand, and said, "I've got one more adventure in me. You in?" She didn't hesitate. Always. We planned the wedding for early spring. Just 30 people. No cake tastings, no dress code. Just our people, standing on a bluff, ocean in the background, laughter carried by the wind. I didn't invite anyone from the past. That was the point. The morning of the ceremony, Sierra handed me a tiny box with a smirk. Inside was a compass pendant. Silver. Antique. Almost identical to the one I once left behind on a white linen tablecloth. "You said it was supposed to point you home," she said. "It did," I replied, fastening it around her neck. No speeches. No drama. Just peace. Exactly what I'd been searching for all along. Our daughter was born on a rainy Tuesday. We named her Marin, a name Sierra picked, meaning of the sea. It fit her before she even opened her eyes. She came out squalling, red-faced and furious, and I swear, the moment they placed her on Sierra's chest, everything else just faded. The hospital room was dim, quiet except for the rain tapping the window. I held her a few hours later while Sierra slept, and I just stared. This tiny, perfect thing. Mine. Ours. A year later, on our first anniversary, I gave Sierra a gift. We were back on the same cliffs where we'd gotten married, Marin wrapped against her chest in a sling, her fuzzy head peeking out. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a small box. She opened it, eyebrows raised. "Another compass?" "Same kind," I said, "but this one's ours." She looked at it for a long time, turning it in her palm. "The last time I gave one of these," I said, "it meant something totally different." "I know," she said quietly, "but you're not that guy anymore." "No," I agreed. "I'm not." She kissed me then, slow and sure, and I felt it in my whole chest. Later that night, after Marin was down and the dishes were put away, I checked my phone. I don't know why. Habit, maybe. I barely use social media anymore, but something told me to look. A message. From Layla. Just a short one. Saw the news. "You look happy. I hope you are." No apology. No attempt to fix what couldn't be fixed. Just a flicker of the past, slipping through the cracks. I stared at it for a second, then hit delete. No reply. No curiosity. That chapter was gone. Not because it didn't matter, but because it finally stopped defining me. I stood by the nursery door that night, watching Marin sleep. Her tiny hands curled against her cheek, her breath slow and soft. I thought about all the storms it took to get here, and how calm the water finally felt.